You're watching Q News. I'm Henny Saif, and this is Think Tank. Ladies and gentlemen, we now go live to the White House in Washington, where the U.S. President Donald Trump is holding a press conference regarding the current developmental issues around the world.
Between President Putin as well as President Zelensky. If President Putin doesn't show up to these talks in person in Turkey, will you join Europe in putting higher sanctions on Russia?
If I felt it would be important toward getting the deal done, I'm the one that insisted on the meeting. They couldn't get a meeting because one said ceasefire, one said no ceasefire. It was going back and forth. I said, look, at this point, we got to stop it. Just go to the meeting. The meeting's been set. Go to the meeting on Thursday. And if I thought it would be helpful, I don't know where I'm going to be at that particular point. I'll be someplace in the Middle East, but I would fly there if I thought it would be helpful. Yeah, please.
Refugees. I want to ask you about South African refugees. Dozens of Afrikaners who claim discrimination in their home country are heading to the United States,
right,
where your administration is going to welcome them as refugees. Now, this comes as you've halted virtually all refugee admissions for people fleeing famine and war from countries like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners but not others?
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, you know, we're supposed to have I guess, a G20 meeting there or something. But we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of. But it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about. But it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa, and the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about, and I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here. Yeah.
Mr. President,
please.
Mr. President, thank you. Are you letting China off the hook for these 90 days, and do you really believe that they will follow through with non-tariff barriers and remove those?
Non-monetary tariffs, yeah. Yeah, I think they're going to follow through. I think they want it very badly. I think they want the deal very badly. Again, this doesn't include the steel tariffs that I put on a long time ago that Biden tried to get off, but he couldn't get them off because it was too much money. You know, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China, what a lot of people don't know, but we put on the tariffs originally. And if I didn't do that, we wouldn't have a steel industry today. Now we have a thriving steel industry. It'll be thriving much more with what we're doing because this is the next level. But it doesn't include that, doesn't include cars, doesn't include pharmaceuticals when we do that. And the reason we're doing that will be to get them to come back into the country. You know, there are, again, I always say it because a lot of people forget, but if a company like Eli Lilly, which is making a massive investment in the United States right now. They're building many, many plants. They've already started like 7 of them, many plants, but they are not going to be tariffed. There's no tariff cost. So they're all doing that. They're all coming back to the United States. I mean, I'll tell you what, I hope I get the benefit of watching this because, as president, because, you know, it takes a little while to do this stuff. And we're doing it early in the administration. If you think of it, we have, I believe, if you look at the real total, it's over $10 trillion committed for plants and factories. Other administrations haven't had $1 trillion over a 4-year period, even over an 8-year period. We have over $10 trillion committed in one form or the other over 2 months. Give me a break. I'm here to hear 3, but let's give me a break on the first month. We want to get acclimated. But, you know, but if you think about it, it's really 2 months. And so in 2 months, we have an investment already of over $10 trillion. And other presidents haven't had that done over a year, over 4 years in some cases. It's unprecedented. There's never been anything like it. It's a very exciting time in America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Who's in charge of the budget bill while you're gone, sir?
I'll sign that.
Mr. President, are you ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the US President Donald Trump from Washington, who was holding a press conference. He spoke about the situation and the negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. He gave them the deadline on Thursday. He said he would have gone there if he thought it would help, but he doesn't think so, and that's why he is resuming with his Middle East tour. He also referred to the situation that farmers are being killed in South Africa, and the US is extending its asylum and citizenship to help those innocent people trying to flee the country. Also, he spoke about China. He thinks that they will follow through with the scheduled time frame they have been given, and we'll definitely be focusing more on his press conference later on in the day. But in the meantime, in the shadow of the upcoming US Gulf Summit, a new and unexpected rift has emerged between President Donald Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Once united in their hardline stances against Iran and unwavering support for Israeli military operations in Gaza, the two leaders now find themselves at odds over the best path forward. Trump, seeking diplomatic breakthroughs with Iran and a ceasefire in Yemen, has frustrated Netanyahu, who insists on a more confrontational approach and continued military pressure on Hamas in Gaza. The question looms: can these two powerful leaders overcome their differences, or are we witnessing the unraveling of a partnership that once was shaping the Middle East? Or are they merely engaging in deceptive political maneuvering? I'm Henny Saif, and this is Think Tank.
Donald Trump is his name, and he's there to stay.
As unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
America powerful. We will win, win, win. And we will make America great again. We will very quickly make America great again.
Welcome back. Donald Trump's upcoming Middle East trip underscores his administration's America First approach, prioritizing economic deals over direct engagement with the Israel-Gaza conflict. Now, according to The Guardian, while seeking multi-billion-dollar investments from Gulf allies like Saudi Arabia, Qatar and the UAE, Trump notably avoids visiting Israel amid heightened tensions. His focus on trade, technology and energy aligns with his transactional style, aiming to bolster the U.S. economy through the Gulf. However, the absence of a unified U.S. policy and the sidelining of Israel in peace negotiations highlight ongoing complexities. This tour reflects a pragmatic but cautious U.S. stance, balancing domestic priorities with the region's volatile geopolitics. According to the Business Standard, the relationship has reached a breaking point, with Trump reportedly cutting direct ties with Netanyahu over concerns of manipulation and being portrayed as weak. The article cites Israeli media reports that Trump's decision was driven by a desire to avoid being seen as a pawn in Netanyahu's political maneuvers. This split, unprecedented in recent U.S.-Israeli relations, reflects the depth of mistrust and the personal nature of the falling out. The newspaper notes that this development could have far-reaching implications for security coordination and the future of U.S. involvement in the region. The New York Times highlights the deepening divide between Trump and Netanyahu, noting that their once synchronized relationship is now under strain as Trump pursues talks with Iran and a ceasefire with the Houthis in Yemen. Netanyahu, blindsided by these moves, has publicly asserted Israel's willingness to act alone if necessary. The Time underscores that while both leaders have benefited politically from their alliance, private disagreements, especially over Iran's nuclear ambitions, have intensified. Trump's reluctance to support Israeli military against
In the spring of 2025, a fault line appeared in what was once considered an unshakable alliance, the relationship between U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, casting uncertainty over one of the most pivotal alliances in Middle Eastern geopolitics. The two leaders, previously in lockstep on key issues, found themselves increasingly in odds before the critical U.S. Gulf Summit. The core of the discord lay in diverging strategies toward Iran and Gaza, Netanyahu viewing an opportunity to dismantle Iran's nuclear capabilities, advocated for military action while Trump pursued negotiations, a move that left Netanyahu feeling sidelined and concerned. Trump's decision to strike a truce with Houthi in Yemen without consulting Israel further exacerbated tensions, leading Netanyahu to declare that Israel would defend itself alone. Adding to the strain was Trump's disapproval of Netanyahu's plans for a new military offensive in Gaza, with the president privately labeling the operation a wasted effort that deemed it a hindrance to his vision of rebuilding the enclave. Meanwhile, Trump is pushing for a ceasefire and a post-war plan to transform Gaza into a Riviera of the Middle East, a vision Netanyahu views as unrealistic. These disagreements have not only strained political ties, but also disrupted security coordination between the two nations. As Trump prepares for his Gulf Summit, the question remains whether this rift is a temporary political maneuver or a sign of a deeper, more enduring fracture in U.S.-Israeli relations, one that could reshape the region's future security landscape.
As tensions mount and the world speculates on the future of the U.S.-Israeli relations, we turn to two distinguished guests for their insight. Mr. Dan Rennie, the political analyst from Washington, and Dr. Ameni Suleiman, the director of the Mediterranean Studies Institute at Alexandria University from Cairo. Thank you both for joining us tonight. As the Trump-Netanyahu alliance faces its most severe test, we ask, what lies ahead for this pivotal relationship? How will their disagreements over Iran and Gaza reshape the security landscape of the Middle East? Mr. Rennie, could this apparent rift be temporary, with both leaders using it as leverage in ongoing negotiations and power plays?
Well, yeah, and thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about these issues. I mean, I do see that this obituary of the Trump-Netanyahu relationship is a bit premature. We have to start by understanding that the job of the President of the United States is, for any president, is to put American interest first. That's really Donald Trump's signature line, putting America first. And that is when dealing with our adversaries, as well as dealing with our most close allies. And I can really see that's exactly what Trump is doing right now with Israel. The United States, Trump, and all of us, we can respect and support Israel without necessarily rubber stamping every strategic decision that's coming out of the country. The definition of leadership is what we're witnessing right now. Having the strength to support a friend while also setting those boundaries that reflect American priorities. And our allies expect that. They expect strength from us. They also expect us to be able to have that direct communication. And I mean, I think honest disagreements between powerful allies are healthy. It's when the communication breaks down or there's a lack of communication, that's when the tension can arise and these partnerships can break. So again, I think that right now we are witnessing some disagreements, But I think these disagreements are healthy, and they're focusing on some of the issues that are from the American side, America first, and frankly, from the Israeli side, there might be an element of political survival at play there. But at the same time, I mean, Trump is walking a kind of a diplomatic tightrope here. But at the same time, we're witnessing quite a bit of diplomacy and a good amount of communication. And again, disagreements don't have to be deadly; they can actually be healthy.
Dr. Suleiman, how do you expect Israel would navigate the growing divergence with the U.S. on Iran, especially given Trump's preference for negotiation versus Netanyahu's push for military action and confrontation to halt Iran's nuclear program?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Well, I think Netanyahu will take a step back because this is one of the things that he knows he cannot do without American approval. This time, you cannot bomb any nuclear facilities in Iran or do any kind of military insurgency without the American consent, especially that the Americans are holding direct talks with the Iranian. Even if it's halted for a while, it will be resumed. And I think this is one of the things that Trump wants to succeed in very badly. So I don't think that Netanyahu would go for what he planned and went to the White House to take a green light for, which is bombing the nuclear enrichment facilities of Iran. But in order to protect his own lands, he would do something against Houthis, like perhaps attacks or something. And I don't think the Americans will go against any airstrikes against Houthis, given what happened last week of a direct missile to Ben Gurion airport. So I don't think that Netanyahu will take a step towards directly Iran or the Iranian facilities until he sees what happens with the talks with the Americans. But he would attack Iran's proxies, including Houthi.
Mr. Rene, is Trump's sidelining of Netanyahu part of a broader strategy to engage Gulf states, signaling a shift in U.S. Middle East policy, or do you think the American and Israeli leaders have already agreed upon that prior to the Middle East tour?
Well, I don't see there being too much of a divergence in the shared values that we have. There is some divergence in terms of the political interests that are at play here. And there's no doubt that Trump and the Americans are threading a needle. I don't think that we're going to stop showing strong support for Israel's right to self-defense. But at the same time, there needs to be a continued building of these alliances with the Gulf nations. And you really can't have a successful United States Gulf summit while ignoring the Arab world's outcry over what's happening in Gaza. This isn't political correctness, it's realism. So having the trust of our Arab allies, while at the same time making sure that one of our strongest allies in the region, being Israel, is defended, that's a political tightrope, and the optics are going to be incredibly difficult. But at the same time, this is a tightrope that is going to shape world policy. And under President Trump, we're seeing a different type of leadership where the United States isn't necessarily reacting to political events, but instead actually shaping them. And I do see that there's not going to be a wavering of support for Israel's right to defend itself. The calls for hostages to be released, the calls for an end to Hamas's attacks on Israel. Fighting terrorism is something that is in the world's best interest, not just Israel's and the United States. So I think we're going to still see quite the alliance that the United States will maintain with Israel, even if there are some differences of opinion on certain tactical things. But that said, we need to continue to build these relationships with Gulf nations and figure out a way to manage this global chessboard. And Gaza is just one piece of that. Iran's just one piece of that. The domestic pressure that all the leaders are under are one piece of that. But again, it really comes to careful diplomacy, not just tactical military alignment on things.
Dr. Suleiman, how will Israel, namely the public opinion, the cabinet ministers, the members of the Knesset, respond to Trump's sidelining of Netanyahu in broader Middle East initiatives with Gulf states that require Israeli concessions on Gaza?
Well, let's first agree with your esteemed guest that the values are the same between the two men. They both don't mind seeing 2 million people besieged and starved to death in Gaza. They both don't mind terminating the Iranian nuclear program. The only difference is the tactics and the timing. But if we take a look at the responses in Israel, we will find that the opposition and the opposition leaders, such as Yair Lapid, are trying to make this rift bigger than what it is in real time. And he's talking to the Israeli media all day long about how the Americans are abandoning Netanyahu and his, according to his words, failure in Gaza. The public opinion, especially the families of the detainees, are urging the U.S. president to bring their sons and daughters back with Aidan Alexander. And they say that Netanyahu gave up on their sons and daughters and they want them back, and maybe the U.S. can do this since it now doesn't like Netanyahu and doesn't like the way he's running policies. In the end of the day, again, I don't see this rift as big as some voices are trying to show it. It's just about when to score a goal. Trump is now a president for more than 100 days. He promised to end wars, especially in Ukraine and Gaza, as soon as he gets into the White House, something that he couldn't do for almost 4 months now. And he just wants a small victory here or there. I expect in the coming days, perhaps some changes on the Gaza scene, perhaps aids get in, but I don't think that the core values of both men are any different.
Mr. Rene, what are the implications of Trump's decision to skip Israel in this upcoming Middle East tour on Israel and the rest of the Arab world and the GCC countries? Is it a way to woo over and win over the people and the leaders of the Arab world and the GCC countries?
Again, I think that it's definitely a strategic move that is taking place here. But one thing that I want to be incredibly clear about here is that the United States is certainly horrified by the humanitarian tragedies that have been ongoing, and frankly, you know, the humanitarian aid and effort that needs to happen in Gaza is something that we're seeing, again, even more leadership from the United States to make sure that you know, the human casualties, the human price that's being paid here, again, it's awful and it needs to stop. I mean, that's something that is incredibly important that we need to make absolutely and abundantly clear. And so, again, ending this conflict while we can find ways to defeat that terrorism is incredibly important. But, you know, kind of getting back to the Trump-Netanyahu relationship, sure, I mean, it very well may be cooling right now as a result of trying to build up more of those alliances and reassure allies in the Middle East. But again, this is some distance that will help allies focus on that shared interest. I mean, you know, while some may think that the proposals from Donald Trump to find ways to rebuild Gaza might be out of place, well, guess what? That's exactly the conversations that are being had right now. And frankly, I would much rather have a conversation about peace building and rebuilding than a conversation about more destruction. So strong allies like the United States and Israel are going to challenge one another. And Trump's style has always been results oriented. There is a transactional element to it, but if something isn't working, then we need to figure out ways to try something else. So I think that's exactly what we're seeing here is Trump trying to find another pathway to find a way to end the violence, to find a peace. And, strength doesn't always mean, doing the same thing over and over again. You don't have to be rigid. It means having the discipline to play a long game, even when some of the headlines might be damaging or might make folks think that there's a rift in a relationship that might actually be healthy. This isn't betrayal, it's leadership.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Dan Rene, the political analyst, and Dr. Ameni Suleiman, the director of the Mediterranean Studies Institute at Alexandria University, thank you both for your very valuable insights and analysis. The Trump-Netanyahu alliance, once strong, now faces strain over Iran and Gaza policies. Their diverging strategies risk regional security and challenge the US-Israeli cooperation amid the shifting political landscape and alliances. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's episode of Think Tank. I'm Henny Saif. Thank you for joining us.